So we are now learning the Dvar Malchut. And the Dvar Malchut are words of royalty, speeches given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in, I guess it was the end of 1991. I guess that what comes up. But Tavshin Nun Beit. And in it, the Rebbe is telling us about the importance and the urgency of doing everything we can to bring Mashiach. And that Mashiach is the whole point of creation, the whole reason, the whole goal of Judaism, the hope of the world is Mashiach is going to come. Right? Okay, but we have to define what Mashiach is. The way people think Mashiach is now is very, 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 very incomplete, to say the least. So Mashiach is going to be a Jew that's going to do pretty much what Moses did, but in a much more complete way. He's going to change the priorities of all mankind, that people are only going to want to do what God wants. Think about God, care about God. That people are not going to be interested so much in themselves. They're going to think about God first and themselves afterwards. And what does God want? The Torah. What it says in the Torah, God gave the Torah. And one of the things in the Torah says you should love God with all of your heart, with all of your might, with all of your soul, with all of your might. To love God. And so you're supposed to love God, and you're supposed to be in awe of God and feel that God is creating us and God loves us and that God cares about us and God cares about every detail. That's the world. That's the idea of Mashiach. Mashiach is going to make people aware of God, the God of Israel, the God of Israel that cares about every human being and that wants every human being to do what's right and to avoid what is wrong, according to the Torah. That's good. Okay, so this is supposed to come any second, but it depends on us. It's supposed to come, and it certainly will come, but it depends on us. Why does it depend on us? Why does it depend on us? Why can't God do it himself? Here with Moses, Moses came and he did the whole business himself. But Moses was the same question. Why couldn't God do it himself? Why did God have to send Moses? Why did they have to be done by means of a proxy, by means of a representative, of an emissary? What do you have to have emissaries for? What? Why not do it yourself? Why didn't God himself take the Jews out of Egypt? Why did he have to have an emissary? A representative. Oh. So here we're going to have the idea, and even more, the word for emissary, representative in Hebrew is a shliach. A shliach. And the word shliach is almost the same thing as the letters of Moshiach. The difference between them is the Moshiach has a mem and the shliach has a lamed. And the difference between them, shliach, therefore, if you add on 10, lamed is the numerical value of 30. That's a shliach. You add on 10 more, you get the letter mem, which is Moshiach. So it says the shliach, the emissary, if you add on the 10 aspects of the soul, which are supposed to be activated in order to bring Mashiach, that will bring Mashiach. Okay, so that's what Moses wanted to do. Moses, when he was by the burning bush, so God said, go take the Jews out of Egypt. So Moses essentially said to God, do me a favor, God, do it through Mashiach. Do it by means of Mashiach. It says the Rebbe, Moshe knew that he wasn't going to take the Jews out of Egypt and bring them to Israel and build a third. He knew that this wasn't going to happen. But so why did he say do it through Mashiach? Moses knew it was going to be two stages. First of all, going out of Egypt, and then the future redemption, which is supposed to come any second now. See, because he wanted to link the two together. He wanted to link the two together. Especially we can see this in important, the first of the 10 commandments is, I am God that took you out of Egypt. That's what hints at the coming of Mashiach. God taking us out of Egypt, that's the essence of Judaism. It's the first of the Ten Commandments. And there is hinted at Mashiach. Mashiach is going to come. Just like, what do we have to believe? That Moses took the Jews out of Egypt way back then. That's what we're supposed to believe. That's so important to Judaism that back then. No, we're supposed to, that's also important to Judaism. But the main point of Judaism is that it's going to happen again. That's the essence of Judaism. That God takes people out of Egypt by means of an emissary. And that's the idea of Mashiach is going to come through an emissary. And the Rebbe is speaking to people who are his emissaries. And we're going to see the Rebbe is going to say that every Jew is his emissary. We'll see in a minute. But nevertheless, this is the most important thing in the world. This is the most important thing of Judaism. The message of Judaism is sure this is the most important thing in Chabad. The Yuvam Zebek, then we can understand this by preceding a general explanation of what does it mean an emissary? What is a representative? I'm trying to find a good word, a proxy. A shliach. A shliach means you send someone else in your place, a proxy to do your work. Okay, what is this? Let's first of all, who was the first one? Was Abraham. Abraham sent Eliezer. Abraham sent Eliezer to find a bride for Abraham's son, Yitzchak. And this is the way that Eliezer Bitzeh, he did and the Achakak he did it. He actually brought Yitzchak and Rivka together. Okay, now let's investigate this. What was going on over here? Abraham sent Eliezer. Okay, you can say he maybe sent him because he was old. That sort of doesn't make any sense. I mean, he could have brought him along, right, to help him, to serve him. It says there's a place. This happened very shortly after the Akedah. So Abraham wasn't that old. I don't remember. He was 140 years old. And when he took Yitzchak to the Akedah to bind him, he was 137. And this happened very shortly thereafter. They sent him to buy. So Abraham could have gone himself. Right? What did he have to send a messenger? What do you have to send an emissary for? So it says, oh, this is very essential. He sent an emissary not because he was weak or he didn't want to go himself. He sent an emissary because that's an essential part of Judaism, is to send emissaries at certain times to do to carry out certain jobs. Okay, so what is this idea of an emissary in Judaism? What does it mean? A shliach. What is Eliezer when he was doing this work? Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, he went to find a son, a bride for Abraham's son. So what exactly powers were invested in him? What would he could be considered? Sheyesh lehefresh, there's a big lefresh. We have to explain many ways. Excuse me. What exactly was the category, the powers of Eliezer? Eliezer was a shliach for marrying off Yitzchak. That an emissary of a person is like the person himself. And also, shliach himself can have many levels. For instance, Maisa shliach is the Maisa mashaleach. Whatever the emissary does, it's as though the boss did it. Gam also koach asiya, the power of deed, is like the one who sent him. Huh? For lack of a better example, if a soldier in the army does something, I know that's the way in America, the way in Israel, a soldier does something, he's judged in a different court because he's not an individual person. He is representing the whole country. An American soldier stole it, signed that American soldiers are not good. America is not good. America is cruel. America is this. If one soldier does it, because a soldier is a emissary from the country. So what he does is it's though the country did it. But you'll turn even more. The whole essence, the whole being of the emissary is it's like the arm of the one who sent him. It's called the Mishalech. Until Kamoto Mamish, until it's like him really Mamish. Huh? If you have an emissary and you send him and he, let's say, borrows money, it's like you borrow the money. If he does something, whatever he does, it's like you did it. He can do things in your name. I'm buying this house in the name of my boss. That's it. It's bought. Eliezer, that's one way of knowing that Eliezer, he was like an arm of Abraham. Like a soldier is the arm of his country. Whatever Eliezer did is as though that Abraham did it. Another way of looking at a shliach is Eliezer oya begerer shadchan. He had a job to do. He was a matchmaker. His job was one thing, to find a bride for Yitzchak, not as a shliach l'kedushin. He couldn't marry her off. He couldn't actually finish the agreement. He would just have to find the proper girl. Or if he was shadchan l'kadsha. But nevertheless, afal pi shegam shadchan bekocho l'kadesh. And maybe let's say he did have the power to finalize the marriage. He puts a ring on her finger. I have been empowered by my master that whoever I marry is married to him. But he's not an arm. He's not an arm. He's not an extension of the one who sent him. And he was sent just to do one job. A person who is a matchmaker. We're not saying that the matchmaker is like the person who's making matches for. No, he's got one job to do. The matchmaker expressly is not the one who is sending him. He's not even a representative of the one who's sending him. If the matchmaker does something bad, you don't blame the person who sent him like a soldier, you blame the country. Doesn't get the Adam Acher is another person, but he's doing a favor for somebody else. Okay, so what was Eliezer? Was Eliezer an extension of Abraham, or was he just a messenger of Abraham? He was something separate, like a postman. Postman, when I send a letter, the postman takes my letter. He's not an extension of me. He's just doing the job that he's serving me. So what is this type of shliach? The Rebbe now is speaking, of course, to his shluchim, and he wants to tell them who you are. We're going to see you're both. We're going to see. Eliezer, there's a good reason to say that Eliezer was not like an arm of Abraham. Ella, come and see with Nifra, that he was like a matchmaker. Eliezer was a separate person. Abraham was a separate person. And Abraham activated Eliezer to do something for him. It's like a worker for him. His job was just to make a match, to find a proper wife. Binyan Shidduch Shel Yitzchak. Mizesh Eliezer, and that with Eliezer. Machzel saw Ila sheyomer lo laAvram lifnot elav lasiol bito. We could even say that Eliezer even more. Eliezer tried to convince Abraham not to send him. He tried to convince Eliezer. He said, I want you to find Abraham said to Eliezer, I want you to find a match for my son. Eliezer said, Abraham, I've got a daughter. I have a daughter. What do you say about, at least let them meet and they'll decide. Abraham said, Beni Baruch, my son is blessed. Ata Arur, you are not blessed. My son has the blessing from God through me. Abraham, let's put this way. My son is a miracle. And you are not a miracle. You're mundane. The ein arur medabek b'borach. And someone who is mundane cannot be together with someone who's holy. Befrat, and especially that this story is told in such a great length, how yeah, and how Eliezer himself, he had to make tremendous effort, Kedelim, so in order to find the proper match for Yitzchak. Eliezer Palil, he had to pray, and he had to pray very deeply to God. And he had to work and make some sort of a sign for himself. He said, if I'm going to stand there, God, I'm going to stand there and pray, please send me a girl that she's going to be fitting. And I'm going to, if a girl comes out and says, here, she says, let me bring water for your camel and for you, and all these signs. And sure enough, that's what happened. He made all these signs. And not only that, it was in a way that was miraculous. He was praying for a miracle. Because Abraham didn't say, I want you to go to this place and find Rivka and a girl called Rivka and marry her. He didn't say that. He just said, I want you to find a girl that's fitting for my son. Find her. He said, don't go to these person, don't go here, don't go there. Go to this particular place. Find a match for my son. So Eliezer understood that Abraham gave him all of the information that was necessary, and it was very unclear. And so he made a sign in his mind. If a girl comes out, she gives me water, etc. She comes out, and he prayed to God, please send me the son. And Abraham said, Lo tikach isha libni mibenot Kanani. Don't take for my daughter, for my son, the daughters of the Kanani. El artzi vel moladati telech. Go to my land. Go to Israel. And I'm saying, go to the place, where was it? And to Haran. Go over there. Low period. He didn't say. Abraham didn't tell him who. He just told him a general place to go. And there's a place. So Eliezer could say, listen, I mean, I don't know. I always liked Eliezer. I always liked, short girls. So I'll get a short girl. He says maybe Yitzchak doesn't want a short girl. Maybe he wants a tall girl. Maybe he wants she's really smart. Maybe he doesn't want someone smart. Maybe he wants somebody that's very, very friendly. Maybe he didn't know what to do. Eliezer didn't know what to do. He couldn't rely on himself. Or maybe he could rely on himself. Abraham sent him. So it says, on the other hand, Eliezer, he said, he was a Zaken Beito, Eliezer was Abraham's trusted servant. Everything was that Abraham owned, Eliezer controlled. Eliezer directed everything. It says even more, even the Torah that Abraham taught, Eliezer was an expert in all of it. He taught other people, Eliezer. You want to know what my master said? And he would tell people, Eved Avram, he was the servant of Abraham. Asher Eved Melech Melech, it says the servant of a king is like a king. Right? If there comes into your town, right, it says, I am an emissary of the king. Here is a proclamation of the king. Ooh, a king. Right? That's what Eliezer was. But God became Dvar Avram. When he did Avram, that Avram said, take a wife for my son Yitzchak as Kim Eliezer, that Eliezer did everything exactly. Kedivre Avram, just like Abraham said. So Eliezer was a trusted, exact, perfect servant. He was like a robot. Exactly what Abraham told him to do, that's what he did. And Abraham even made him take an oath. He made him take an oath, swear that you will do what I tell you. Therefore, because of that and other reasons, it seems to be saying that no, maybe he was a shliach of Abraham, like an arm of Abraham. So what was Eliezer? Eliezer was just sent there to do a job. That's what it seems. But on the other hand, Eliezer was a trusted, totally devoted servant of Abraham. Everything that he did was only to benefit his master Abraham. Huh? So if so, it seems that maybe Eliezer was like the arm of Abraham. He wasn't just a emissary, like a postman or something. Okay, so that's what the Rebbe is going to say. We are emissaries. each Jew. And we have to learn from Eliezer what is a real emissary. What is a shliach? Here we go. Yeshlom, we can say, Shedavar said this thing that Eliezer was a shliach. This is understood from what it says. Vayikach eved asara gemalim. It says that that Eliezer, he took 10 camels from the camels of his master, from Abraham. Vayelech, and he went. V'kol tuv Adonai biyado, and all of the riches of Abraham were in his hands. What does that mean? All of the riches were in his hands. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. 10 camels were not enough. Abraham was very rich. Abraham became very, very rich. Abimelech gave him very rich. So how did he carried everything with him, right? I mean, that's really extra baggage. I mean, he had to pay a lot. How did he, with only 10 camels, how did he do it? It says, how he had everything. It says the Meforshim, the explainers of the Torah, they say that Eliezer, he had in his possession, called Tuv Adonav, all of the good of his master. He wrote him a deed. He could do whatever he wanted to. And he didn't have to have permission. Like it says, here it says, even though we say, Rashi says, the shtar matana katav Yitzchak, even though it says that Abraham wrote a bill of possession, a gift, that stating that Abraham said, everything I have belongs to Yitzchak. Kadesh Yikpatzo, in other words, that in order that people would immediately desire to marry their daughters to him. But Avram gave this deed, this gift certificate, that was a gift certificate for everything that Abraham owned. He gave this to Eliezer. And he gave it to Eliezer in a way that Eliezer, he had the permission to tear it up if he wanted to. So everything that Abraham had was in the hands of Eliezer. So Eliezer could go to someone. He saw a girl that he thought this girl would be the fitting girl. In those days, you didn't go to a girl and say, you want to marry my master. You went to her father. Go to her father and said, I'd like your daughter to marry my master's son. And he said, get out. What do you got to offer? You want to see? $50 trillion. Come on, what are you talking about? Here's the, ooh, look at that deed. Hey, calls his friend. Wow, this is something else, right? My daughter is going to get all that money. Yep, if she gets married to my master. So Eliezer had a deed that in his control was all of the money of his master. He could have said, listen, I'm only going to offer you to marry my master's son, $1 billion. Says, woo, $1 billion. That's a lot. Are you sure you have that much money? Says, yeah, have a look at this. This is in this deed. It says $3 trillion, right? If I got a $3 trillion, I have $1 billion. He could have done whatever he wanted to with it. So therefore, we see that Eliezer was like sort of really in the place of Abraham. He wasn't just like a mailman or just hired to do a certain job. So how could Abraham give everything he had to a person that he had some sort of a doubt what he would do with it? So if so, it's proven that Eliezer was totally devoted to Abraham. Abraham had no doubts whatsoever about what Eliezer would do. And therefore, Gam Kasher Sholchu, when Abraham sent Eliezer to make a match for his Yitzchak, he was not like an emissary, not like a postman or a messenger, that he was something in himself, and he just had one job to do. But he was a shliach, he was a totally devoted shliach. He was like the arm of Abraham. Shekol mitziuto, that all of his being was the same as the one who sent him. Therefore, Abraham could give to him everything he owned without any doubts in the matter. Okay, so what's the Rebbe explaining here? In order to bring Moshiach, you have to have representatives. You want to really get things done in Judaism, you have to send people to do them. You have to send someone. These people have to be sent. That's who we are We are all shluchim. We are shluchim of God. We are shluchim of the Rebbe. We're shluchim of the boss, but we are all emissaries. What type of emissaries are we? Are we an emissary that we just have a job to do? The Rebbe wants to bring Moshiach, and we just have to do what we can in order to bring Moshiach, right? Or do we say, no, we are like the hand of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is like the hand of God, like Moses. Moses was the hand of God. Moses took the Jews out of Egypt. What do you mean? God took the Jews out of Egypt. But Moses was the hand of God. Moses took the Jews out of Egypt. Moses received the Torah. Moses said the same thing is going to be so Moses therefore was a shliach of God. Mashiach is also going to be a shliach, and in order to bring the Mashiach, we have to be shluchim also. What is a shliach? So he says, well, let's look and see Eliezer. Eliezer, on one hand, he was a separate entity from Abraham. He just had a job to do to bring a match for Abraham's son. So this, it seems, that Eliezer was an independent body, and he just had a job to do. Not just a job to do, that was his job. That's what it seems. But if you look a little bit closer into it, you see that he was much, much more than just a regular, postman, just bringing your letter from one place to another, or a messenger. That he, in some ways, was like an arm of Abraham. Abraham gave him everything that he had, put it in his hands, trusted him totally. Not only that, Abraham told him, you have to use your own judgment. I'm not going to tell you exactly who it is you have to get married, you have to find for my son. Just don't go here. Right, go to this specific place, to my land where I came from Aram Naharaim. Right, you have to go back there to the place where I was before, and find that from Abraham was in Israel now, but he originated where the place we originated from. So he said, Ur Kasdim. He said, go back there and find the girl. What's she supposed to look like? What she's supposed to do? Are you looking for any particular qualities? End of message. Didn't say anymore. So if so, Eliezer had to decide on his own. So if that's sort of like being the place of the one who sent him, of Abraham. And he had all the money of Abraham. Abraham trusted him totally with everything that he had. So it seems that Eliezer was much, much more than just a messenger for one job. And so are we. Let's see. An explanation is, Yuvan will be understood by an additional question. A klutz kasha, like an obvious question. Al zeh shtar matana katuv. On this, it is written to Yitzchak, I'll call asher lo. It says that Abraham gave a document, a certificate of ownership, that for everything that Abraham had, everything. Why? She yikpatsu lishloach lo bitam, because everyone would want their daughters to get married to Yitzchak. He's got so much money. Even regarding charity, which is a big mitzvah, the law is you never give away everything. The olam lo yaktish adam v'lo yachram kol nechasav. It's a law in the Torah. You're never supposed to give away everything you have. Why not? Because that leaves you poor. Then you're going to have to be the poor one, and you're going to have to ask for other people. It's better that you should have at least a little money yourself so that you don't have to go and beg from others, take money from other people. You're going to be competition with the people who are genuinely poor. You gave away all your money. What'd you do that for? Right now you're a competitor with all the other poor people. You have to. So this says, a person should never give away or sanctify, whatever, give to the Holy Temple, all of his possessions. The Oseh can, and a person does so, over al dat. He goes against the Torah, a katuv, which is written, Shari Omar, because it says, Mi kal asher lo, that you have to give charity from everything you have, and not call asher lo, and not everything you have. If so, Abraham knew what was written in the Torah. How can it possibly? It says he even did everything that was written in the Torah before the Torah was given. How could it be that Abraham gave everything that he had to Yitzchak? Even if he gave him already as Birusha, even if he was giving it only in an inheritance, Kam as lo hayadavar muvan, it also wouldn't be understood. You're not supposed to give everything away. Alachas kam, how much more so? He gave everything that he had to Yitzchak in order that people would want to marry their daughters to him. Im lo haya moser kol lo. If he didn't give everything that he had, only the majority. Hine biyota asher. Abraham was very, very rich. Haya dai bakach. So Abraham had $1 trillion. He had to give all $1 trillion. He could have given $1 billion. He could have given $500 billion. He could have given everything and left $1 billion for himself. But no, he didn't leave anything for himself. Abraham gave everything to Yitzchak. Well, before, and especially that Abraham was, here we go. He was 110, he was 140 years old. And he lived afterwards many, many years. Right? Abraham lived to be, 175 years old. So Yetzorach Nechasim Avor Atzmo. Therefore, he needed something for himself. Right? What do they call it? A something egg. What is it called? A retirement egg. There's a word for it. Avor B'nei Beito. He's going to live another 30 or 35 years, and he's not going to have any money. Or he's going to have to borrow from Yitzchak. It doesn't make any sense, especially after Yosef, Avram, V'yikach Isha, that afterwards, it says that Abraham, afterwards, he took more wives and he sent these. That's where all these Eastern religions come from, that Abraham took more wives and he sent them to the East. So he had to have money. Why did he give away all of his money to Yitzchak? Why? Everything. If you want to explain it spiritually, we can explain it like this. It says that Yitzchak ben Avram olid et Yitzchak. It says, this is going to be next week's Torah portion. Yitzchak is the son of Abraham. Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Next week, Elah told us Yitzchak ben Avram olid et Yitzchak. It says these are the generations of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham. And then it says an apparently superfluous statement, Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Umar the rabbis say, why does it have to double over and say Yitzchak is the son of Abraham and Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak? Because Yitzchak was the son of Abraham, but he didn't necessarily have to look like Abraham. Didn't look like Abraham. In fact, people were saying that there was a short time when Avimelech, he kidnapped Sora. So maybe in the time when he kidnapped her, maybe he was the father. So what did God do? He said, Avram olided Yitzchak. He made that Yitzchak's face was exactly like Avram's. Cluster Panav says the shape of the face of Yitzchak was similar, whatever is the form of the face of Yitzchak was the same of that of Abraham. So it is also in the soul. They were in general, call echad, emshech echad. They were davar echad. I'm sorry, they were one thing, one continuation. Abraham and Yitzchak was just one line. The Avod, Avodim, Merkava, all, they were both a chariot for godliness. So therefore, Abraham didn't really give it away. He just gave it to another aspect of himself. Right? That's one way of explaining it. But maybe we could say internally that's the answer. But externally, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe we can say the explanation is like this. I mean, after all, a person is not supposed to give away everything that he had. That's a law. not even to your son, even if your son is an extension of you and he's a continuation of you. That's all according to Kabbalah, but you can't make laws according to Kabbalah. There has to be a legal explanation why he gave everything to Yitzchak. The marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, the marriage and the preparation for their marriage, sending Eliezer, this is the first one that is written in the Torah. This is not just a marriage between two people, Yitzchak and Rivka, but this represents a very essential, general principle, two principles in creation. The first marriage unification in the Jewish people after the commandment of circumcision. It's the first marriage, and even more than this, by means of this marriage, right? Abraham, it says that he got married to Sarah, but that was before he was circumcised, right? Way before he was circumcised. It says, and even more, by means of this marriage was made offspring. Toldot, that's next week's Torah portion. Offspring, a continuation of the whole Jewish people. In other words, in addition to the fact that this was a marriage between two people, Yitzchak and Rivka, this also, their marriage indicates on the marriage of all of the Jewish people. What's the Jewish people? The purpose of the Jew, we'll see. These Nisuim Halalu Hebiu at the Toldot, this is what brought the offspring and made possible at Hemshechim, the Jewish people, to the end of all generations. Now, the Jewish people are not a normal people. The Jewish people is not a race like every other race. A Jew that comes from Yemen is totally a different race than a Jew that comes from Russia. A Jew that comes from Yemen could be dark, totally dark. His face is a different shape. He speaks a different language. His customs are different. His nature is totally different. From a Jew that's in Russia, he looks different. He talks different. He thinks different. He eats different. Everything is totally different. It's not a race. There's no racial characters that hold them together. There's a joke. These people say DNA. You got a DNA of a Jew. It's a joke. It's stupid. There's no DNA for Jewish people. It can't be such a thing. Maybe it's more prominent than Jewish. Who knows what? It can't even do it. A person that converts. He's got no DNA. His parents were total non-Jews. They had nothing to do. He converts, and he suddenly is a Jew. He's a Jew. That the continuation of the Jewish people comes from the marriage of Abraham and Sarah, and especially from Yitzchak and Rivka. Yitzchak and Rivka. This marriage brings the offspring, and that convert gets married to another convert. Then it's two Jews. The child is a Jew. He's part of the eternal nation, whatever you want to call it, of Jews. So Jews is something that's not exactly a race. It's also a race, but it's not a nationality either. You don't have to, and it's not even a religion. There's Jews that are not religious at all. They're just as much Jews as Moses is. It says, Yeshlam, we can say, Shaluch, and therefore Abraham gave this, everything he had to Yitzchak. Why? Because this was not just a regular marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, two people, but this was a marriage of all of the Jewish people. So therefore, Abraham was not contributing to the success of one marriage. He was contributing to the success of all of the marriages of all of the Jewish people for the next 4,000 years. Umimela, therefore, Zagam Nogi, it's relevant to Abraham himself, because Abraham, he was the head of all the Jewish people. Umishum Kach, and because of that, he put in this everything that he had. He devoted everything he had. Everything he had, he devoted to this, the continuation of the Jewish people. The Elohim Medubar, and if it was talking about Abraham, that he was just a father of one individual called Yitzchak, then really there was no place for him to give everything that he had. He could have given only a little portion. Even if he would have given the majority, it would have served the same purpose. People would have jumped to marry him. The Chelakhu Yamashir, that he could leave a little to himself. That was if Yitzchak was an individual person or the head of one religion. But because that this marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka was the most general thing that could be in the world, it included in it all of the Jewish people, and the Jewish people, they include in them all of the world. That this is the whole idea of Abraham. Abraham, that he was the head of the Jewish people. He was the first Jew. And so therefore, he didn't want to leave anything for himself. That Abraham would be separate, so to speak, a separate entity, that he would leave something for himself. Therefore, he gave everything that he had. When Mosari gave all that he was, everything that he had, with everything, and even more. This marriage, this marriage, Nesuim Boim, Davka Bakocho, this marriage came because of Abraham. That's what it says. Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak, and Abraham circumcised Yitzchak when he was. So Yitzchak came after Abraham was circumcised. Yishmael was born before 12 years before Abraham was circumcised. Yitzchak was born, the first person to be circumcised at the age of 8 was Yitzchak. The first person to be born from a circumcised father was Yitzchak. And afterwards, Abraham, he made this match by means of sending Eliezer. Therefore, he had to put in this everything he had. So if so, it was so tremendously important that this was the foundation of all the Jewish people. And the Jewish people, they are the foundation of all mankind. Alpis, according to this, now we can understand that Eliezer was not just a emissary. He was not just a matchmaker. He was not just a person in himself doing a job. He was a Geder Shliach. He was like the arm. He was a true emissary. His being was like Abraham. Kashem Shenatinat Kol Asher Lo, just like everything that he had, gave over to Yitzchak and to Eliezer, believe without any leaving anything for himself, because Abraham was not a thing for himself. It wasn't separate from Yitzchak. Excuse me. Similarly, also it's understood regarding to Eliezer, that he was a shliach because he was involved in this whole continuation of all mankind, putting meaning and blessing to all mankind. So therefore, Abraham gave him everything that he had, and to Eliezer, and Eliezer was totally devoted to the job. All of his very being, as Eliezer, even as he went to do this job, and he had to do the job according to his own, his own decisions. He had to make his own decisions. Nevertheless, even the decisions, the individual decisions that Eliezer made, which you might think that this is a separate thing from Abraham, this is his own personal business. He was putting his own personal touch into the whole thing. Says no, everything Eliezer did was an arm of Abraham. It was as though that Abraham did it. There was no place for a separate entity like a shadchan, like a matchmaker, that he is a person in himself. So here we see an interesting thing: total devotion. Is there such a thing as total devotion? We see sometimes in sports and music that the sports player is totally devoted to his sport. The musician is totally devoted to the music. He can move, both of them, they can move faster than a speeding bullet. They just immediately, they just do, because they're totally devoted to this one thing. Totally devoted. But here we have a whole different thing: to be totally devoted to the purpose of creation, to reveal God in this world. That means to be totally devoted to God, because God is the one that's creating the world, and God is the one that decided he wants to be revealed here. To be totally devoted to this, that's a whole different level of devotion. And therefore, it reflects itself in every detail that's being told in the Torah here of the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, which that's going to be the progenitor of all the Jewish people who are going to come and bring blessing to the whole world, show this big unity and benefit the world. So therefore, every detail of this match had to be with total devotion. Abraham was totally devoted to God. Abraham was totally devoted to the continuation of the Jewish people. Therefore, he gave away all of his money. Similarly, Eliezer was totally devoted to the same thing that Abraham was. He had no, so to speak, existence of his own, even though he had to make a lot of his own decisions. And it had to come from himself. How can these two things come together that he made his own decisions, but nevertheless it was only Abraham's? This and much more we will see tomorrow.